Okay, in this video I'm going to go over one of the major problems that Bakes on Mesh has right now. Some people out there are upset with me that I'm talking about using Bakes on Mesh clothing or using alphas because on some systems the alphas don't work. It's basically the Omega applier that is being sold right now. The alphas, from what I've been told and from what I read, the alpha, wearing an alpha like I'm wearing now, doesn't work. I'm wearing an alpha right now, and it's to hide the mesh body. I mean the mesh body that's poking through, right? That they're saying that the alpha doesn't work, and it doesn't work. From what I've been told, now it could be the person who told me this was wrong, but I was told that the Omega applier to convert your existing mesh avatar to a Bakes on Mesh avatar that they're selling on the marketplace, that it doesn't work with System Close Alpha right now, and that the main reason for that, and like I said, I'm just repeating what I've been told, is that that the body, come on, the custom of the mesh avatars like Slink, Maitreya, and all them, they are no mod, and that the Omega script cannot change this alpha mode. Like right now, this alpha mode is set at a mask of 6. That by default it is 0. If you see 0, it doesn't work, right? So they're saying they can't change that, and so since the Omega applier can't change that setting, that those Slink bodies, Maitreya bodies, and Beleza bodies, and TMP bodies, and all the other bodies out there that are not modifiable can't use alphas, so therefore I should not be talking about mesh clothing. We're using mesh clothing with Bakes on Mesh, or using Bakes on Mesh in mesh clothing itself, I guess. I've been told I should take my video down. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not going to take my video down because there's nothing wrong with Bakes on Mesh as far as that's concerned. It's a limitation of their script, not Bakes on Mesh. So I am going to talk about using alphas, and I just have it set to higher than 1. I think 1 will probably do for most, but I just like play it on the safe side. I'm not going to do that. This is what Bakes on Mesh is capable of. Okay, is being able to wear mesh clothing and using an alpha, just like for the default avatar, because this is not the default avatar. This is a special Slink Hourglass that I've gotten permission from Sadine Monroe to upload and to test with, and it works perfectly fine, as you can see. Okay, so what is the problem? The other problem is that a lot of people believe, including the owner of Omega, that Bakes on Mesh should be restricted to avatar bodies only. I think, and that we shouldn't even think about using them for mesh clothing like I have in my videos. He said there's this poke through right here, but that's just because this mesh was not made for this mesh body. I could make an alpha and fix that if I really wanted to. And so, because of conflict, okay, the main reason I've been told is because of conflict, that if we only have a certain number of slots, and this is true, we only have a certain number of slots, and they believe it should be reserved to just mesh bodies. Well, my point to that is that even the current mesh bodies are going to need more than the current slots that we have. That the mesh body designers, as you can see here, they don't have hands, so that would be another slot. They don't have feet, that would be another slot. And I know most mesh body designers want to have a tattoo layer that can be different on each arm, and that would require another slot. So we just don't have enough slots right now in order to even satisfy what we really needed to be done for mesh bodies. Just for mesh bodies alone to work with the Bakes on Mesh system. We don't even have enough slots for that. Because the hair designers, they got a hair slot. We have only 6 slots. So if you have the upper body, the lower body, and the head, that's 3. And then that leaves only 3 more slots. Doing another arm to have tattoos that are not symmetrical on both sides, that's another slot. So that's 4. We have hands, 5. We have feet, 6. And we only have 6 slots. And one of those is the eyeballs. And people are going to use the eyeball slot for the eyeballs. And hair designers might want to use the hair slot for their hair. So we already don't have enough slots, baked slots, to go around for just taking care of a mesh body that doesn't have any hair. So we need to solve this. And I came up with a solution. I've filed a JIRA. I don't know if the JIRA is going to be accepted, or if they're going, or if my solution will even be, it will work. It just depends on whether or not Linden Lab has the resources needed to write the amount of code to make it work. I don't know how much code is going to be needed to make this work. I would think it wouldn't take that much, but I don't know the viewer system. I don't know how it's written. I don't know what code, I haven't seen the code. I don't know what, how it's written. I don't know what its limitations are. That's why you file a JIRA with your suggestions, and Veer and the other Lindens look at it and they go, can we afford to do this? Will it take too much time? Or is this solution valuable enough to where it would make things work well enough to where we should put more resources into this particular solution? I don't know that yet. And I'm not suggesting anybody go out and sell mesh clothing or any product for Bakes on Mesh yet. It's still in the very early stages of beta, and things can change, and so you don't want to really be selling anything. What I'm doing in these early videos is just showing the potential of what could be done and what is actually working right now. But things can change, and things that work today in one way may not work in the same way. So if you go sell your stuff, you might find that there's no way to fix it, and you'll have to refund your money to your customers if you can't find a workaround to get it to work with however Bakes on Mesh ends up actually working. So okay, so what is this conflict? Yes, we have limited spaces. Well, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to show you an example of what this conflict actually is. Okay, so I'm wearing one mesh top, right? I'm already wearing a mesh body, but I'm wearing a mesh top, and say somebody wants to wear another piece of mesh clothing like this fancy skirt that I made. Okay, so right now the fancy skirt is being textured by the same slot as no, is it? Let's see. It's being textured by, let's see, so yeah, it should be textured by this. Well, let's see what the slot is first. Okay. Whoops. Come on. Edit. Drives me nuts. Okay, so we're going to see which texture it's being used. I think it's going to be, yeah, it's the skirt texture. Now, I have made a hair texture to use this. Okay. I've made a hair texture to use this, and that's what's being worn right now. That's this one right here. This is the hair texture that is being used to text that. And so we got 2 things working right now, right? We have 2 things working right now, as you can see, and so far, how many are we using? Okay, we're obviously using the head bake for the head, but that's the Linden Lab default head. Same with the eyes; those are default eyes. Now for the upper body, I'm using bake upper body, bake upper, and for the bottom half of the avatar, up until you get to the ankles, I'm using, because this mesh only is the standard mesh body, has no hands, has no feet, is for the lower bake. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We're using 4 bakes right now. Okay, if we wanted to have hands, that would be 5. If we wanted to use 6 feet, that would be 6. So we're already running out of bakes. And if we wanted to use a mesh head, we'd have to use the mesh head bake. So we're running out of. Now, if I were to, like said, if I were to use, say, the upper body, or not the upper body, the skirt layer, we're having a conflict, right? Now you say, okay, well, can't you make a skirt for that skirt? You know, now mind you, I'm already wearing a skirt layer. Okay, I'm already wearing a skirt layer. Here it is. It's a crisscross gold, and it is what's actually texturing my mesh top there. Yeah, I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you by wearing, let's see, let's wear a different one. Okay, let's add that. And we can take that one off. And so now it's solely this skirt, right? Okay, now what if I wear a skirt specifically made for this skirt, right? And I add that. Now what we're getting is we're getting an interference between the two textures that are both being applied by the skirts. Now this texture here, down here for the chainmail, is a solid texture. It's an absolute solid texture. While this one is a skirt that has an alpha. This texture here has an alpha in it. And so it is the two textures are being combined together. And if I were to shorten this skirt, say there, and save it, now we're going to really see something. Well, I would have thought it would have showed both textures. Oh, I guess it is showing both textures. See, because the texture up here is correct, but the texture down here is all correct. So you're actually seeing two textures. You know, there is, you know, you're actually seeing two complete textures. I believe this one is the one with the alpha. It's hard to tell exactly what is where. So anyway, so two textures are being combined, and by these two are being combined by the same thing. If I were to up this one, so it's on top of this one, because it's solid, we should get only a single texture applied to both. See, which is what we're getting. A single texture applied to both. Because this one is a solid texture covering the incomplete texture, and this is a texture that has an alpha on it, so that you're getting combined. These two are getting baked together. And so that is the problem. We don't have enough texture slots, you know. And so, because there's going to be, you know, people who have hair are going to want, or hair makers are going to want to have 2 or 3, maybe 4 slots, or 4 textures just for their own hair, you know. And so they're going to want to have hair. They're going to want to be, they might want to use the same system. You know, you got jewelry designers. They might want to use this system too. You know, if somebody has a rigged pet, they might want to use the system to texture their pet. So, and shoe designers. Why should we leave out shoe designers? Now, these are really old shoes that I made a long time ago out of Sculpties. But the shoes might want to have a different texture on the strap, different texture on the toenails to add the toenails, and a different texture on the heel. You know, they might want to use the baked on text, or baked on mesh system. So how can we solve the problem that we already have with the default avatar, or with custom mesh avatar? You know, how can we solve this with the custom mesh avatar? Let me detach this. With custom mesh avatars, already taking up, needing more slots than what we have. You know, how do we solve this problem? Because let me take off this top. Let's see, detach, and I'm going to detach the skirt, and I'm going to detach the alpha. Oh, and we still have this skirt worn. Take that off. Okay, so how does we, because like I said, this is a sleek mesh body. There's the system avatar, right? There's the default system avatar. You see your hands. You know, how do we solve this problem? You know, well, I have a potential solution. Like I said, I don't know if it's going to actually be able to be doable by Linden Lab. I know from a programming point of view, it should work. I don't think it would be that much work, but like I said, I don't know the limitations. So how do we solve this problem? You know, if we have limited slots, and what I mean by slots are these slots. These are baking slots, or you know, that's what these are what I call by baked slots. You know, how do we solve this problem? You know, we only have one. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everybody's using the eyes. Everybody's using the upper. You know, the bodies are using the upper and lower, and the head. That leaves us with basically hair and skirt. 2 slots. If you need more than that, we're out of luck. You know. So I'm proposing a baked auxiliary slot. A baked auxiliary slot, and a very special baked auxiliary slot. So I'm going to go here to okay, so this is my solution. Here's the new baked auxiliary slot, and the baked auxiliary slot is there's a new field down here. It's called a baked auxiliary, or that's what AUX stands for, is auxiliary, baked auxiliary channel number. Okay. And it says if you're using baked auxiliary, you must input a number between 0 and 1 million. Okay, so say you enter a number of 500,001 in this channel number, this baked auxiliary channel number. Then you come and you create a brand new tattoo. You put that texture that you want for that face, you know, for this face. You know, this is the upper body. I have the upper body selected right here. So, but just consider that this could be a body, it could be mesh clothing, it could be a shoe, it could be a diamond, it could be a ring, it could be anything. It could be the arm, you know, the other arm that we're going to need. It could be for the hands, it could be for anything. It could be for a mesh pet. And this mesh right here is made up of 2 different faces. So you can set 2 different faces to auxiliary, baked auxiliary, and give each one a different channel. Okay, and you would give each one a different channel. You know, so this might be 5,001 or 500,001, and this could be 500,002. You notice that they are on 2 different channels, basically. Okay, and then you would create a tattoo for each one, and you drop the texture in here, and then you would put 500,001. You put the same channel number here, and then you would save it. You know, give it a name and save it. Make a second tattoo, drop in another baked auxiliary channel number, and put in another, you know, a 500,002 for the second one. You know, any number, as long as these match, as long as the tattoo channel number matched the number that you put in here, then when you wore the tattoo, in here, just like we wear system clothing, there's a tattoo, just so as when you wore the tattoo, it would be set to the correct channel. And if you wanted more than one texture, say, you know, like, okay, say, yeah, I like that skirt, you know, or say, you know, say you sold the skirt, right? Okay, and right now, because I'm not wearing a skirt, it's giving us this sort of default texture, which kind of is funky. Oh, let's put on our body again. Okay, and let's edit this so it has. Is it the head that was using the zebra? No. No, I meant hair. Is it the hair? Yeah, okay. Okay. So say you made a tattoo, and this skirt was set to 500,003. You know, and you could make a skirt or a tattoo, and you drop that and you set that that same tattoo to 500,003. You know, well, if on your tattoo layer you made it a ping, and you made polka dot texture, and you put that so that the dots were solid but everything else was alpha, you know, a ping, then when you wore two tattoo layers, you could put the polka dot one on top of the other one, you know, and wear it. I'm thinking we mainly all be using tattoos to be texturing almost everything, other than, you know, on most things, on clothing and stuff like that. And then since everything would be a tattoo the same type, you could order them in any order that you wanted to, so that you could put the polka dots on top. So I could have, look pretty ugly, but you could have a zebra striped skirt with, say, white polka dots, you know, or blue polka dots, or red polka dots, or whatever you wanted to put on top of it. You could layer those textures on each other using the system. So this would solve pretty much the biggest problem with Bakes on Mesh right now, of not having enough baked slots for everything that we want it to do. So that's my JIRA that I put up was to add these two things: a new baked auxiliary slot with channels, and a tattoo with a baked auxiliary texture slot, and where you input the same number that you want it to go to. The chances of, basically the chances of two meshes with two faces having the same channel number are basically 1,000,000 to 1. Because you can, you know, as long as people didn't choose 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 commonly, you know, smart designers are going to choose a very high number. It could be in the thousands, could be in the hundreds of thousands, it could be in the tens of thousands, it could be in the thousands. You know, as long as you randomly choose a number in one of those areas, the chances are basically 1 in 1,000,000. By human nature, a lot of people will choose, those who aren't very experienced might choose a number between 1 and 100 often. You know, so my advice to you, if they go with this system, is don't choose a number between 1 and 100, or even 1 and 1,000. You know, pick a much higher number in the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, you know, in that range, not the lower numbered range, because that's where people who are less experienced are going to just go, oh, okay, well, I'll pick 203. That's still better than 58. But yeah, because it's just human nature. Inexperienced people, like, oh, wow, 1 in 1,000,000, okay, 392. Still, that's better than 100, because you know somebody's going to pick 100. So anyway, so yeah, so the chances of two people picking the same number, having the same channel number, and then the chances of one avatar wearing two different meshes at the same time with the two numbers are so remote. It's basically 1 in 1,000,000. You know, it's basically a 1 in 1,000,000 shot that's going to happen. And if it does happen, it's going to be extremely rare that it happens. So that is my proposal for fixing this particular problem. It would allow mesh bodies to have hands, even 2 different hands with 2 different channels, so that you could have a different tattoo on each hand. It would allow for even fingernails. If you didn't want to use an applier, it would allow for fingernails to use different channels. You know, even one fingernail could have, you know, if somebody really wanted to get into it, they could have a different channel on each finger, on each hand, and on each toe, and have different channel on each foot, you know, so that you could have, if you wanted to for some reason, have a different tattoo on each foot, you know. It would basically allow for unlimited number of channels, you know, and they're not communications channels. It's just once it's not like an open communications channel that's going. No, the Bakes on Mesh would just check to make sure that that there is something using that channel, using that slot, that auxiliary slot with that channel. That's all it does. So, you know, and that way we could have clothing that uses baked on mesh. We'd have full bodies that are using baked on mesh, rings, and, you know, pets that are rigged to the avatar. You know, it would allow us to even use, it would extend, I mean, like I said, it could extend. We're hoping, this is one of the stated goals of Baked on Mesh, is that they're hoping that we'll be able to get this to work with Animesh and with other things such as furniture and everything else that anybody can think of that they might want to use the system on. You know, and so we can have all those things with this particular channel system. And I'm just saying 1 to 1 million. Linden Lab might say 1 to 100, well, 100 million or 900 million, you know, or 1 billion. You know, it's up to Linden Lab what the, you know, I'm thinking 1 to 1 million is pretty reasonable. There's not going to be any conflicts. Most likely, it might happen once in a very great while. It's like hitting the lottery. It's probably never going to happen to you, but it just might, you know. And so this would solve all those conflict issues, and wouldn't require that much to change as far as, you know, the tattoo. Add a slot, add that, you know, add the slot here and add this here, you know, and a little warning to tell people what they need to do. So if we do that, then it really opens up the door for Bakes on Mesh to do so much more, and to not worry about conflicts. And you know, there's still a lot more that needs to be done with Bakes on Mesh, you know, but at least that gets a huge problem that we're having right now with Bakes on Mesh out of the way, and it should hopefully calm down the people who think Bakes on Mesh should be just for mesh avatars, human mesh avatars and non-human mesh avatars, to realize that this system can work for so many more things, and not just mesh clothing, not just mesh rings and Animesh, but for a lot of more stuff, such as furniture, you know, or leaves on a tree, you know, or what have you. That this can be extended to a lot more things than just that, and it wouldn't have any conflicts, or the chances were like being hit by lightning. You have more of a chance of being hit by lightning than winning the lottery. And so anyway, so I just wanted to put this out there, you know, and like I'm saying, you know, I would not recommend anybody using Baked on Mesh for anything they're going to sell right now. It's still very early in beta, and the proposal to solve this solution may not be adapted by Linden Lab. Linden Lab or somebody else in the content creators meeting, or who are working on testing Bakes on Mesh, might come up with a better idea, an easier idea that is just as versatile that I've come up with, and easier to implement. It happened all the time during bento testing that when I was on the bento group. It's perfectly fine if a better solution is come up with, you know. So you know, so anyway, so, you know, and stuff like, you know, yeah, it was stated that by Veer that we would like to extend this to Animesh. We don't know if it's going to be able to be extended to Animesh yet. This is why beta is beta, to find out, is this possible? How much work is it going to be? How much resources does Linden Lab have to be able to do that, or to do this or that? That's all a part of beta. And, so, we would, Veer had said Linden Lab would love to extend this to Animesh, and other things. Whether or not it will actually be, we don't know at this point right now. So, you got to remember that these early videos are very early videos, and things that are in these videos might get broken, or they don't work that way anymore. So please, if you're watching this video, know that this is all in beta. This is all in beta, and whether or not, I'm sure some things are going to change and things won't work quite the same. I personally am hoping that we'll get, instead of hiding the body, the avatar body, by like I said, right now, the avatar body gets hidden, not by what you think is traditionally of using an alpha, by using an alpha that hides the entire body. It is hidden by, depending on which slots are being used. If the head slot is being used, the deep system avatar head is hidden. If the upper body is being used, the upper body, the complete upper body is hidden. Same with lower body, same with eyes, skin, and hair. They get hidden. I would like to see some sort of master alpha that uses system clothing alpha, but just set to maybe a particular flag that says this is for the master alpha, or maybe they'll create a new class of alpha that works just like the alpha you have here, but that is set for the body only, so that you would wear a crisscross alpha like this to hide the mesh, that would hide the custom bodies like Slink parts, and then another alpha that would hide the default avatar, the system avatar. And so that say you like the system avatar, but you want mesh hands. Right now, there's really no way to do that, because as soon as you put on your hands, it makes the upper body disappear. If you were to use the upper body, make a pair of mesh hands and use the upper body bake, like you would logically think to use, the rest of the upper body would be disappeared, and you would have no upper body and just hands. Now my system of using those channels could work for system avatars to have baked on hands. Because the thing about these baked slots, I should say, let me go back to here. The thing about this auxiliary bake is it doesn't hide any part of the alpha, a part of the system avatar. So you don't have to worry about hiding something that you didn't want to hide. So you could use the baked auxiliary and use, you could use the baked auxiliary, and you could use the baked auxiliary for the, let's see, let me detach this. You could use the baked auxiliary for mesh hands, set the texture for the mesh hands, and then you could wear an alpha, just like I'm wearing, this is the system avatar that you're seeing here now. Okay, and okay, so now we have the system avatar, right? And its hands. So say you wanted to wear mesh hands that fit the system avatar. Using my system, I just realized we don't need a master alpha. We don't need a master alpha to hide that I was just saying. It just sort of dawned on me that you don't really need a system. And there might be a case for it, but now I'm trying to think in my head, because I always thought in my head we needed a master alpha for just the system body that didn't affect the custom mesh bodies that you could wear, so that you could wear mesh hands with the system body if you happen to be a big fan of the system body. You know, just like Sadine has made mesh feet for the system avatar. You know, and right now if she were to use that slot, she would hide the lower body. But with the auxiliary bake, yeah, you're right. Now I'm trying to think. Now maybe somebody out there will think of a reason why you would need a master alpha for the system avatar if we get this auxiliary bake. I can't think of any off the top of my head. You know, I can't think of any off the top of my head. And so, yeah. So I think that auxiliary bake would actually fix those two major problems. Because, you know, say you like the system avatar, but you want mesh breasts. Theoretically, if you do it just right, you could make mesh breasts to replace the system avatar's breasts, and it should look seamless. I've not done this, so I don't know for 100% sure that it would actually work. I did something similar to it for a different project a long time ago that was before fitted mesh, when I was doing testing on my own. The project was never implemented in Second Life. And I was able to replace body parts of the system avatar with mesh, and it looked seamless. I don't know if we'll be able to do that, but you might be able to do that. So you would just wear an alpha to hide the system avatar's alpha, and you'd wear a pair of breasts that are set to the baked auxiliary. You could even set one breast to one channel number, and the breasts would have to have two different materials on them, and you would set them to two different numbers. You know, so they would be wearing two skirts or two tattoos for the skin, you know, set to the skin, or you would set them to the skin. Yeah, you would just set them to the skin, and then you would, then you would just create two new tattoos. If you wanted to put some sort of tattoo, and you could have different tattoos on each breast. Why you'd want to do that? But I'm sure there are people out there who want, two different tattoos on their breasts, mesh breasts. You could do that with the bakes. So yeah, I just realized we don't need that alpha, that master alpha that I had talked about in the previous meeting, the previous content creators meeting. Sometimes one solution solves other solutions, and it looks like if Linden Lab were to put this into practice, it would solve that other problem. And so awesome. I love it when when I think of something solves something else as well. That I had thought of I had thought of another solution for hiding the master alpha, but that is a solution, but this solution actually makes that solution obsolete. And maybe somebody else will come up with another solution that's simpler than this solution, and that solves those two. So, you know, so anyway, so anyway, so let me just add to current outfit. There we go. Although I didn't have the crisp link out cost. I'm sorry, I get distracted. Me and my ADD. Okay, so anyway, so there, that's better. So yeah, so this system, I've made the JIRA for it. I am really hoping that Linden Lab sees the value in it and puts the number of man hours needed into it to do it. Oh, and last thing I'm going to say is a lot of people are quoting me that I'm saying that I've said Bakes on Mesh will be out in 6 months. I didn't say that exactly. I said I could see it coming out in 6 months. That seems fairly reasonable, but I don't know if it will or not. I would love for it to get out in 3 months. You know, that would be really pushing it. 6 months might be somewhat reasonable, since I think it's going to be a smaller project than Animesh or Bento was. I think it's going to be a smaller project than that. So I'm assuming, since Bento took about 2 years total, was it a year and a half, 2 years total time for it to actually, or was it a little over a year? I don't remember. It was either a year and a half or 2 years. I can't remember. I think it was 6 months before we went open the beta, and then it was another year after that before it actually got the final version released, I think, if I remember right. So that was a year and a half. We've been working on Animesh. God, how long have we been working on Animesh? At least 6 months, maybe 8 months by now. So it's going to be a year at least on Animesh, maybe a bit longer. So I'm, 6 months would probably be pretty quick for Linden Lab for this. Maybe they'll surprise us and it will get out faster, because this first go around came out really nice, came out very usable. Yes, it has some little quirks here and there, but overall it's worked surprisingly well for the first test viewer. For the very first test viewer, it's working amazingly well. So that's very encouraging. So yeah, if Linden Lab, so 6 months is probably a slim chance, but I would think there is a chance that it might get out in 6 months, but like everything, you never know what you're going to run into. You never know how much resources Linden Lab has to put towards things. So somebody might get pulled off of a project to work on something else that is more urgent, and so that might draw out the beta longer. It's just managing resources, and they have limited man hours to put towards something. So things might not come out as fast as we would like them to come out. I could see this getting out in 6 months, if Linden Lab, wants to get it out, and if we don't run into any more major bugs, and we can get a few other things in there. So yeah, I am not privy. I am not privy to anything that's going on in Linden Lab. Veer has not said anything to me that, yeah, he thinks it's going to get out in 6 months. Veer would never do that in the first place, because Veer knows he's the official spokesperson, basically, for Linden Lab, and he knows better than to make promises that Linden Lab can't keep, So, so just so that you guys know, I have not been told anything or have any, secret communication between me and Veer or Linden Lab that they've told me that this is going to get out in 6 months. I'm just judging by my previous experience with Bento and Animesh that this theoretically, I think, could get out in 6 months. If Animesh gets done and that frees up more resources, and Linden Lab can put that and decides to put that towards Baked on Mesh and doesn't decide to siphon that off to Sansar or something like that, then I could definitely see this getting out in about 6 months. It would be awesome. I think that would be somewhat reasonable. Do I think it's going to get out in 6 months? It might be close to 6 months. It could be 8 months. It could be 10 months. It could be a year. You don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. But if everything went really smoothly, and Linden Lab, when Animesh gets done, puts all those resources into Bakes on Mesh, and that there's no unforeseen problems that would cause this not to be doable, this channel idea, because it's very possible that there's some sort of weird quirk about the code in the viewers that doesn't allow this to work. You know, so there might be some sort of weird quirk, because believe me, I know about quirks. I've done plenty of programming myself with the Avatar Lad and in C# and Maya Mel scripting and Python, to know that each type of script, each type of language has its own little quirks. You know, and some more than others, that make certain things possible, certain things not possible. So I'm not saying that, you know, in theory it should work. In practice, it may not. So, anyway, so I just wanted to get that stuff out there, you know, so that people are very aware of the current state of Bakes on Mesh and the current problems of Bakes on Mesh. You know, I'm trying to be very clear, you know. One of the things that I was told was that, let's see, let me wear my, where is it? My system. Where's my system? Crisscross top. Wait, where is? That should be worn. Where is that being worn from? Oh, this detach. Okay, I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to get something set up. Okay, you know what? I just decided I am going to do another video just talking about normal maps and specular maps using in conjunction with Baked on Mesh. There's been some things said to me that just are not true. You know, and like anything, there are always limitations, but there have been things that have been said to me and written about me in the forums that are just not true about normal maps and specularity maps on the Baked on, you know, with using it with avatars and mesh that are using the Baked on Mesh to apply the diffuse texture. So I'll do that in another video. This video is already long enough. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.